Hector Cuevas Cruz is an offensive security consultant, forensic analyst, and threat hunter. He spans the gamut. For some of the most renowned security companies in the industry, which will remain nameless because I want to let him get started. So Hector, tell us about ATM at the moment, penetration testing at the moment.
Awesome, thank you. So first of all, my name is Hector. I'm from Mexico, so I apologize for my accent, for my English. I'm a security consultant right now at BishopFox. I have worked as penetration tester, forensic analyst, and incident responder, and also I have worked as threat hunter in a bank for 1.5 years. So in the bank, what I have done is I have worked with the ATMs, logs, and tried to see some of the misbehavior and try to grab that information, parse it, send it to a SIEM, and try to trigger some alerts if I saw that something was happening in there. So that's kind of my experience here, because I have done some forensic analysis for ATMs. I will talk about that later, but right now we are going to focus on the offensive part of the ATMs. But first, why we are going to talk about this? So the reason of this talk is because I have talked with some consultants and they came to me and say, hey, you know, I have been assigned to perform this penetration test for this ATM, and I don't know what to do. And the penetration test is the next week. And the plan for the company is that you just have your vulnerability scanner, you have your Metasploit, your exploit, or something like that, and you are ready to go because you are an experienced penetration tester. You have done a lot of network penetration tests, web application pen test, red teams exercise, and so they guess that you already know how to perform a penetration test in the ATMs because they assume that it's the same. But indeed, what should I test in an ATM? How should I do it? What tooling would I need? Is it the same as a normal pen test that I always do in a network? What is the main purpose of the test? Which is my goal? When I talk about ATM penetration test, we always think that it's about money. I think that I'm going to do a jackpotting and I picture myself with an ATM and doing a jackpotting and the cash is in the floor. That's pretty exciting, but is that the goal for the financial institution? So at the end, what I'm going to recommend, what I'm going to report to that financial institution. And also one thing that I have seen many times in some reports from some consultants is that they just boot their USB with Kali Linux in the ATM, and that's it. They say, I hacked the ATM and it's insecure. But why? Okay, yeah, maybe I can report that, but there must be a reason of that. But first, let's learn some basic concepts of ATMs. So at the end, the ATM has some parts, some components, a lot of components indeed, but let's wrap it up and say that we have that the ATM inside has a computer. We have this misconception that the ATMs always have Windows XP. And I'm not very familiar in the States with that, but at least in Mexico and in Latin America, that is not the case. Why? Because in Latin America, ATMs are attacked constantly. One of the main countries that are attacked, it's Russia, Mexico, and Brazil. So you know that if something is constantly being attacked, you must keep securing constantly. So right now, most of the ATMs in these countries are Windows 7, and they are migrating already, or they are already in Windows 10. So this thing that ATMs just has Windows XP and those are really easy to hack, that's a misconception that I have seen. Indeed, some of the ATMs that I have tested that has Windows XP For me, sometimes it has been more difficult to hack, to do a jackpotting, for example. That those that has Windows 7, because I'm more familiar right now with Windows 7. You don't have much experience right now with Windows XP. If I put Windows XP right now and I tell you, hey, you have to hack it, you will see that many of the commands that you are familiar with will not work, are not installed, because those were installed in later versions. So that thing is a misconception that I want to let you know. So we have the computer in the ATM. We have the card reader that are the target for the skimmers that we all know. We have the cash dispenser that are target for black box attacks that I will talk about that later. We have the network equipment that normally that's stored in an upper cabinet, for example, in standalone ATMs. We're going to see those type of ATMs later. We have the external case that is which protects the ATM. And we have the safe where we store the money. But we have more components than that. For example, we have some ATMs with vein scanner, with QR code readers, with cash acceptor, we have NFC reader, with camera, receipt printer, the EPP, the encrypting pin pad. We have, if the financial institution, the bank, wants to spend some more money in the ATMs, they put some extra safeguards on hardware or in software. We are going to talk about that also. But we can have a lot of more components in the ATMs. The previous ones that I talked about are like the main, but we can have a lot of more components. So some of the type of ATMs that we can find, it's the standalone ATM that we can find when we go to a university, to the mall, that we just sit there, standing there, and it's like not that good protected. We have some through-wall ATMs that we normally see in the banks, in the financial institution. Indeed, I was walking in one of these streets, and I saw one of these. I see this is really common here. Those are not that common in other countries. And we have also drive-through. Also, we have ATMs by how it's serviced. So this means if it's service front or rear. When the cash in transit, they are going to service the ATM, they will open it by the front or the rear. Also, if they need to be managed by the administrator, how they are going to open it. So these are some things. For example, this ATM that is through the wall, for example, is going to be serviced by the cash in transit rear, but it's going to be open to access the computer in front. We have also this type of ATMs by type of network communication. If it's going to be wireless, if it's going to be leased line, for example, this depends also of the location. If I'm going to put ATM in a place that doesn't have really good connection, well, those ones may be going to be satellite because they don't support Wi-Fi, or because we don't have that I don't remember the word. Bandwidth, sorry. We don't have the bandwidth like to give all that technology to the ATM. So if we have an ATM with satellite connection, we can place some protections in the ATM. Like, for example, I can have an EDR in that ATM because the connection is not going to be stable. So I can being constantly monitoring that ATM. I can be sending commands to that ATM, and the banks know that. They put that ATM like it's going to be maybe more susceptible to attacks, but they are going to accept that risk. And also we have ATMs by functionality. As I told you, depends on the components, but they can accept deposits, they can accept checks, they can recycle cash, have dual dispensers, etc. So this is just like a brief introduction to ATMs, the components, how they are, the types of the ATMs. But now let's talk about the ATM security posture that we found. We have some attack categories that we can divide into three: the physical, the logical, and the fraud. In the physical, we have all of those attacks that physically will attack the ATM. For example, the run rate, where I just wrap some change into the ATM and I will use a RAM car and will take it off from the ground. I will steal the whole ATM and I don't care about the damage that I will do. Also, they can use explosives into the ATM. They will just try to blow up the safe and access the cash directly. In the logical, they are not going to do that. They are going to try to don't make physical damage to the ATM. They are going to try to access somehow into the ATM. They can access by network. They can maybe access by a heat device, USB, into the ATM and plant maybe a malware into the ATM to access to the cache, to do a black box attack. And in the fraud attack category, we have a scheming that they will target the customers. They will not target per se the ATM. And we have also transaction reversal fraud that in this case, they are going to make the ATM to give money by playing with the cards, saying, hey, I'm going to insert my card. I'm going to tell you, give me one amount of cash, and then I'm going to jam the ATM. I'm going to tell you, hey, you didn't give me the money. I'm going to jam the cash dispenser, and when the ATM is trying to retrieve the cash from the cash dispenser, I'm going to pull that cash, so the ATM is going to be jammed. In that case, what is going to happen is that I by force pull it the cash, but the ATM is going to receive a signal that, hey, I don't know what happened to that cash, but I have to deposit that amount to the client again. So that's some fraud that they are doing. So which resources we have available right now? These are some of the really less resources that we have. For example, PCI ATM security guidelines. It's a PDF available that we have that you can download. We have also the European Association for Secure Transactions and the ATM Industry Association. Nevertheless, these associations are not like public available. You have to be part of these associations. You have to have a membership. This membership has a cost. You have to pay this fee. This fee is not that cheap. And also you have to, for register, you have to pass some checks. Like you have to be part of a bank or a financial institution. You have to have certain number of clients and stuff like that. So it's not always easy to access to this kind of information. Also, we have some advisories from vendors, but the vendors will only send these advisories to, obviously, to their clients. So most of this information that it's available is not public available. It will be only for that circle that it's really close, that it's only for financial institutions, that it's okay because you can maybe open all that information to everybody because, yeah, the bad guys, cyber crime can get that and do bad stuff. But the truth is that they are doing right now that. So makes no sense to me. For example, we have this is the security guidelines from PCI, where the security guidelines right now, they say, hey, you have to place the EPP, the encrypting pin pad, this way. Yeah, so somebody can came and see how you are writing the PIN. Okay, for me this is not a security guideline. This doesn't give any information about really how to secure an ATM, but this is like one of the only information that we have out there. So, do we need more documentation? Well, I really think so. That's the reason why I'm here, trying to share a little bit of this. Some of consultants have approached to me and say, hey, how we can test this or stuff like that. But indeed, this image from below that says, is it possible to hack ATMs? It's a thread from Reddit from 2 days ago. And they are talking about Terminator, John Connor, if it's possible. I mean, it's 2022 and we are still discussing that. So it's really interesting, that thread. But yeah, at the end, I have found that many financial institutions doesn't have like the experienced consultants to respond when they are being attacked. And ATMs are really different between brands, between models. So when they are being attacked, because I have been in the defensive part, sometimes it's really, really hard. But let's talk about now the most common attacks. We're going to talk about the most common attacks from the cybercrime point of view. So one of the most common is the physical access, because they are going to came to the ATM, grab some tools, and they are going to try to open the ATM however they can. But the interesting thing here is that many of the times that we have seen this from the financial institution side is that they are not coming with just any tool. They are coming with crafted tools, with custom-made tools. So for example, here, what I am showing here is that these tools are not bended. These were done this way because that's the way they needed to be to reach maybe something that they needed. So that was really interesting, because if you grab that tool and you try to use it, you will see that that was that fit perfectly for one ATM specifically. So, for example, if a bank had NCR, Wincor, and Diebold ATMs, and you saw that these tools were found in a Diebold ATM, normally what it's happening is that these tools will work in all of those Diebold's ATMs of the same model. And if you go to the NCR ATM that it's just next, that Diebold ATM of the same bank, in the same branch, this will not work, because they study one ATM, they target that ATM, and they will try to exploit that ATM. That's how it works normally, always for the financial institutions. They target one ATM, one model, and they try to exploit it as much as they can. Then they jump to another one. So in the other picture, you can see that if this one even has a little camera in that one, because they need to see something. So another attack that they are doing is black box attack. They use a black box device. Black box device is nothing but they disconnect. So right now, what is happening is that the dispenser is connected to the computer. So what they do is that they disconnect the dispenser from the computer, and they connect the dispenser to their own computer. So they can connect it to a Raspberry Pi, to a laptop, to a cell phone, to whatever they have prepared. In that computer, in that black box device that they prepared, they have already programmed that device to say, hey, dispense the money. So a protection that the attackers have done, that the financial institutions have implemented, is that they use like certificates, for example. No? So the computer has a certificate, and the cash dispenser has a certificate. If these certificates mismatch, well, then another device can be plugged and it will not work. So this is how they are fighting black box attacks. Nevertheless, like in the last 8 months, I saw that the attackers found a way to bypass this. And this is like the old BIOS attack, like when you open the computer, and if the BIOS has it was password protected, you just unplug the battery and the password was reset. So they do something like that. What they do is like they burn some chips in the cash dispenser, and they reset like these certificates, and they are able to again connect their black box device. So this one is like the second most common attack. And the third one, obviously, is about XFS. When they talk to XFS and they can dispense money. So we have seen many of the malwares that can talk XFS and they can dispense money. For example, we have Bluetooth, no? One of the most popular, most famous malwares. But what is XFS? XFS is conformed of APIs and SPIs. So, for example, to put it like easy, an API is an easy way to tell XFS what we want to do. We want to read a card, we want to open the dispenser, we want to read a PIN. It's like normal commands. And an SPI, the service provider interface, will be the specific interface that will interact with a specific peripheral. So every ATM has their specific peripherals, and those peripherals have their specific DLLs. So because all of those ATMs with different brands and models have their own DLLs, it was really difficult like to talk to each one. So they created XFS, like this API, to talk to all of them. So XFS will translate to those SPIs, and the SPIs will translate and will talk to those DLLs. So, for example, like we see in those registers, we have the application of the bank that will talk XFS, and we have the XFS manager, the multi-vendor, the middleware, and that one will talk to the SPIs, and the SPIs will translate to the DLL. So this is the reason why when we have one malware that talks XFS, normally it will work in several ATMs. For example, this is an example of Malware-XFS. I was doing here a forensic analysis of a malware. We only know that ATM was attacked. We didn't know how. And what I did was write Jara rule, really easy. And you can, I don't know if you can see, but here you can see like those XFS instructions like WFS open, WFS execute, WFS startup. Those are like normal commands that the malwares will use in XFS. So I just wrote this Jara rule. I ran this in my autopsy forensic station, and I found really quickly some binaries that were using these functions. And I was able to identify malware in that ATM. This is one example, for example, of malware using XFS. Those binaries were using XFS, but in the picture that is behind, for example, this malware was not using XFS. That's one way to do it. But another way to do it is that malwares are not using XFS. Instead, what they are doing is that they are reusing binaries, DLLs that already do things. So for example, here, this one is using CSCWCNG, that it's a DLL for WinCore. DSDLL specifically talks to the dispenser in WinCore, and if you use it, you will be able to dispense money. So the malware, instead of using XFS, it will be only using this DLL, and that's one way like to hide some of the tasks that you are doing, because if you run, for example, that Java rule that I wrote, you won't find that in this malware because you are not using XFS, you are just reusing this DLL. So this is like the third most common way that cybercrime is using, that it's just the malware. So finally, which are the main issues that we should report in a pen test? Now we are ready to, I don't know, boot my Kali, start scanning with Nmap, I don't know, use some exploits with Metasploit, even Starnessus, because I have seen that in some reports. But at the end, we have heard a lot of this phrase that it's security is like an onion, because we know it's layered. But I want to see it more like a game. So we're going to see it in this way. We're going to see the environment. When we are going to test an ATM, we're going to see the environment, we're going to see the physical components, we're going to see the network layer, and we're going to see the application layer to be able to test like the whole environment of the ATM. So when I arrive to perform an ATM penetration test, I'm not just arriving to the ATM and I have seen some consultants that they just say, hey, give me the IP address and I will start the penetration test. But no, when I do a penetration test, and I always talk to the bank, to the financial institution, hey, I have to do it physically. I can do it, this test, just by the IP address. Why? Because I will have to test, as I told you, the environment, the physical layer, and I can do that just because, and the application, and I can do it that just with an IP address. And so when I arrive to the ATM, it doesn't matter if it's a standalone, it's a through wall ATM. I will see the CCTV and the ATM cameras. So let's picture if this, if the ATM it's in a university, it's in a mall, if it's in the bank. What I will try to see first of all, if just as I arrive, if there is any camera placed that is recording in the ATMs. Why? This is really, really important, because maybe you say, hey, that doesn't matter to me. This is not ATM hacking. Yeah, but when the bank has an incident, for example, a transaction reveals a fraud, you can respond to that without cameras and without logs. So mainly with logs, but also with cameras, because the cameras will give you the modus operandi, how they are triggering those frauds. If you don't have cameras, that's a really issue for the institution. And that's one thing I have seen many, a lot of times, that there is a CCTV camera, but sometimes it's just recording to another place. And I have to say, hey, yeah, you have a camera, but you have to move it because it's not recording to that ATM. Or when I open the ATM, I have seen that a lot of things. You don't have camera, You have a camera, but it is not connected, or you have a camera that is connected, but it's not recording. Because obviously, if all of those records is storage, and the storage is money. And well, you know, they don't want to spend. So for me, this is one of the main things that we are going to review. The other thing that I'm going to review in the environment, in the physical environment, is the cables, exposed cables. So for example, it's really normal that I see here just a cable that it's just hanging out there. And what happens? I can cut it. And for example, in the picture in the middle, it was a USB cable. And what we did is that we really cut. What we did is that we connect a hub. And we were able to really connect a keyboard and a USB device. And that part from where we get that cable is from where the camera should be. So in this ATM, we asked the bank if we could cut that cable, of course. We got that approval. But in that square that where we got that cable, it should be the camera. But as there was no camera, there is only one little plastic there. One attacker came just break it. The cable is just right there. We can grab it, cut it, and we can connect directly. We can access to the ATM by connecting an USB and do a hit attack. We can connect a keyboard and we can do a screen or kiosk jailbreak and take control of the ATM. And normally, that's one thing that maybe you don't know, but the ATMs run with service privilege or administrator privilege. And even though if they are not running with this privilege, you don't need those privilege to do a jackpotting. You just need any user privilege. So just with getting you to drop something into the ATM, you can talk to XFS and you will be able to perform that attack. And in the last picture, well, that's a picture of really well protected cables of an ATM. Another thing is that we found a lot of weak locks or locks by default, you know, that just with some lock picks, you can open it. We indeed did some contests that how many seconds you take it to open it. Some of them were really, really easy. Indeed, some ATMs were not even need to have locks, lock-picking tools to open it. You could use even sometimes another kind of tools like clothes hangers or cardboard. And I'm gonna show you a video at the end of how we did that. Those are some of my tools that I normally take. You have to take to see if you can take those lock picks to that country, because normally they are not allowed. It could be illegal. Sometimes even we have seen that some ATMs, they change their locks to tubular locks, but also we have picks for those kinds of locks. We found also that ATMs have sensors. You have different kind of sensors. Mechanical sensors, magnetic sensors, laser sensors. The most common sensors are mechanical and are magnetic sensors. But sometimes you can reach those sensors by the vents. And you just need to try to see where they are. That's the reason why the attackers steal the ATMs. Not maybe because of the money, because they want to study that ATM, they want to study that model in specific. When they see that ATM it's already with all the security protections of the bank, they steal it and they study what they have. They have sensors, they have extra safeguards, they have software protections. They study everything and they then prepare. They came with their crafted tools and they attack it in just seconds because they already know where and how to do it. So in this case, what we do is we are trying to see with, for example, a hand lamp from the vents. Here we can see, here is a sensor. If I can reach it, for example, here with some of the lockpicking tools, I was able to reach this mechanical sensor. And when I was able to lockpick the lock and open the ATM, I wouldn't trigger the alarm to the ATM. So that's some things that you should note. Also, we have unprotected BIOS. That's one of the things that I told you about. Yeah, I have seen many of the reports of ATMs. I boot Kali Linux. Yeah, that's one great thing, but what is the main problem? The main problem is that BIOS is not protected. So yeah, it's a finding, but it's not the main goal. Also, we have Unencrypted Hard-Drive. For me, this is like the most critical finding in ATM penetration testing. Why? Because when I found unencrypted hard drive, it allows me a lot of things. For example, install malware, extract hashes and passwords, disable users, disable security software, and mostly because I was able to bypass a lot of ACLs. I will list some of the security software protection that I was able to bypass at the end. Also, if we have BIOS unprotected, I don't have to dismount the hard drive. I just can boot and mount the hard drive. Also, we have unnecessary network service exposed sometimes. Sometimes I have found even legacy protocols in there. And well, you know, that's like a normal pen test. But this is just a small part. That, yeah, with the IP address, you can do like a normal pen test, network pen test. But this is just one finding from all of the findings that we are seeing right now. We have kiosk jailbreak. So to do a screen jailbreak in ATM, we will need one thing, that is how to control the ATM. Normally, it will be by having a keyboard connected in the ATM, or maybe if sometimes the ATM is touchscreen, also you will be able to bypass by, you know, minimizing a window, going into help, and opening Internet Explorer, and then you launch the CMD and stuff like that. Then, well, you can do a lot of things. Some of the security protections bypass that I have seen or have been able to do it in software. Some of the most common software that are focused for ATMs are Checker, Lookwise Horizon, and also we have seen Symantec, McAfee, EDRs. For example, all of these have ACLs, and all of these ACLs denies a lot of actions that you drop some binaries there and execute, and that's great. But if you are able to bypass those ACLs, then, well, you are like it's like your domain admin in an ATM, because you will be able indeed to put a binary that will control XFS, and then you can perform the jackpotting attack. In hardware, you will have sometimes anti-skimming, anti-black box, and extra safeguards. These ones have been really fun. Like, you have found metal bars, metal pins, vent covers for protecting the sensors or stuff like that. We have used some pumps, air pumps, to bypass some of these metal bars and stuff like that. These extra safeguards, we have only seen those in the laboratories, because it's not normal that they will spend all of that money in the ATMs. Normally, the institutions will say, "We know, we have assessed the risk, and we know that we lost this amount of money in all of these ATM attacks per year. And if we accept this risk, it's going to be less money that if we put all of these, if we change the logs, if we put extra safeguards, if we put software protections. And at the end, well, you can do much with that. You can just recommend to the financial institutions, but at the end, they are going to decide, they are going to do their risk assessment. Well, normally that's the way they go. So at the end, is there a methodology for ATM penetration test? No, that I have found. I'm working in one. This is just like a draft that I'm working, but I'm doing like in Markdown complete methodology with test cases and how to do each one of those with examples and all of those. I haven't finished, but I will want to have like this, normal awesome ATM cheat sheets that we see in GitHub. Put it there for the community, because that's something that I haven't found. Normally, there is information about ATMs, yeah, but normally it's about security researches that they found something that is sometimes really advanced, or just normal topics, or sometimes about these associations that is just garbage. But at the end, what I would like to have is a methodology for penetration testers that they can follow and see, hey, I have this ATM, what I need to do, because I have been there. I have faced the ATM and have and say, hey, I don't know what to do. This is a really strange machine and I don't know what to do. At the end, I'm not talking about, I'm going to show you how to do a jackpotting, and we have a lot of videos of that, of another persons. I have done that, yes, but that's not the point. Here the point is how to assess an ATM to perform an integral test for a financial institution. So you can do a report and deliver to your client. So talking about tooling, we have this. This is my portable kit. As I told you, you have to see what you can bring depending to the country. I have worked a lot in Latin America. And sometimes where I can bring all of those pigs because sometimes it's illegal. Indeed, in Mexico, where I am from, the possession of those are illegal, but I have to have it. But yeah, those are some of my tooling for heat attacks, for networking, screwdrivers, cables, Raspberry, keyboard, a mouse. I have found that sometimes when I forgot something, the most unnecessary thing that you maybe think that is, I will have to go into a local store and buy it. And as I told you, we have sometimes some improvised tools. Like cloth hangers, we have sometimes used this to open an ATM. You don't even need the key or those lockpicks to open it. And the last three ones, that is tape, cardboard, and magnets, we created this tool that you can see. The red one is the cardboard, the tape, and the circle is the magnet, and we use it to do something, and I'm going to show you what. Here I set the cardboard to open the ATM. I don't have a key, I don't have locks, and now I'm using the magnet to bypass the sensor. So just with cardboard, tape, and magnet. This was one tool to run them all. This was just one ATM, one specific ATM that the lock was opened in the upside of the ATM. So you just need to push that part of the lock. The key just was moving that part. So I use the cardboard just to push it. And then the magnet, I just bought a lamp that was having a magnet, and I use it to bypass the sensor, and the alarm wasn't triggered. So at the end, is jackpotting the main goal? For example, one time I was doing a pen test, an external pen test, and what I found is that they had an exposed RDP service that with weak password. So I was able to get into that Windows Server system, and from there I started to do a normal pen test. The network exploitation, that was a flat network with legacy protocols. I know you will know where I'm going. So from there I was able to get passwords from memory, a lot of passwords. From there I started to pivot. I found the ATM network, and at the end I landed into an ATM. From that ATM I was able to jackpot remotely because I knew how to do it. I had my own binary to do it. But at the end, that didn't make any sense. So that was in another country. This ATM was placed in Central America. That didn't make any sense for the financial institution. That didn't add any value. I told them, yeah, I was able maybe to jackpot this. And what I did maybe was worse than what I offered to them, because in some ATM, just one bill was dispensed into the ground, but the balance in the ATM now didn't match. So that was a thing for the financial institution, even though I reported and all that stuff, and that wasn't a problem. But that didn't make sense. So for the institution, they needed to, hey, how can I protect my ATMs? They didn't know, hey, you caused a problem because now my balance doesn't match, you know? So at the end, as I told you, these are like the layers that I try to cover. So, oh, sorry, this is in Spanish, sorry. Sorry about that. I didn't change that slide, but it's the environment, the physical layer, the network layer, and the application layer. So the conclusions is that performing an ATM penetration test is an integral test, which involves several layers. You have to consider all the tools that you will use, and you have to verify their legitimacy. Depending on the country that you will perform the test. You should never perform a jackpotting attack without prior authorization of the banks, because the balance, as I told you, and the logs will mismatch. And that's really one thing for the financial institution. And I told you that will make really angry the banks, because it's a lot of trouble. I have worked in the bank, and it's something big. Jackpotting, at the end, it's never the goal for us as penetration testers, because we are there to prevent the cybercrime to perform the jackpotting. And putting Kali Linux in an ATM, yeah, it's a finding, but never is the goal of the test. And at the end, the financial institution and the consultants are from the same team. And the key is going to be communication, constant communication, for a successful ATM penetration test. So sometimes what happens is that when I'm doing a penetration test with really good physical security, and for example, I can open it, I don't stop there. I go to the financial institution and I say, hey, I wasn't able to open because this, and this. I have already assessed the environment, your how it's placed, the cables, and all that stuff. But now to perform the next layer of the assessment, I need you to open. Then I will write down this in the report. I will say you have this good security in the physical. I will write about the environment, but now I will try to assess the network and application layers. And sometimes, they open it, and I found that they have bad protocols, or the hard drive is unencrypted, and those are high findings. And they will say, hey, but yeah, I have to open. We are going to discuss, yeah. But at the end, an attacker is not going to care about that. They are going to come with tools, with heavy tools. They are going to open it. They are going to destroy your ATM, and they are going to steal your hard drive, and they are going to steal all of your information. So that's one thing. The communication with the institution is going to be key, and you have to keep moving with the layers of the test. Yeah, that's it.
So thank you, Hector. So any questions for Hector? There's a couple here.
Yeah, they are going to be posted in the Discord channel.
Oh, yeah, for all talks, the slides should be posted. They are not right now, but keep checking back. Yes?
Two questions. First one, how soon do you anticipate? How soon do you plan that markdown of the framework?
I really hope this year. Yeah, I have been working in this because it's not only about offensive. I have been gathering information about forensic and threat hunting, artifacts, because sometimes what I have found is that, for example, if you land into a network of ATM, of whatever, and you want to know if one computer is an ATM, I want to have some artifacts to see specific information. If this is an ATM, which brand, which model, there is not enough information of that. So I'm trying to gather all of that information, not only for offensive, but for forensics and also for threat hunting. So I'm working on that, but it's a lot of information. But I'm trying to do this year.
For those on the feed, the question was, when is it going to be ready? When is it going to be done? And the answer, I believe, is real soon now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never. I never get destructive. The only time that I have done that is on the logs that have been tubular, because I have never tested that before. And when I was able to lock it, to open it, I saw that those peaks, those logs, were disarmed, and I wasn't able to put it back like really easy. It was really, really hard. So I will just say, if you found those tubular logs, be careful with that, because sometimes if you take off the peaks, maybe you won't be able to put it back.
Hector, so I was multitasking while you were talking, and I found the availability of XFS simulators that you can buy. So there are actually ATM simulators that you can buy. Are they expensive? Have you used anything like that to write malware to help you in your pen testing work?
No, I have never used it, but sometimes you can buy an ATM, and maybe it's easier.
So buying the hardware is easier than buying the simulation software?
Yeah, because sometimes ATMs, it's legal to budget in some places because they are not being used by the institutions anymore. So.
All right, thank you very much.